I don't think we're winning this game. Down 20-5. Tonight's a night where you might think to yourself, the likes didn't come into play. And you might be right. You might be right. Sometimes you have an off night. Sometimes things don't go your way. But don't think that likes don't matter. Likes still matter. Where the show goes on. At 9:18 today, Nick, I want you to know that I text the C-Box group chat and I said, I actually think I like this from the Cubs. I hope they score 20. I actually do like this because I think now it's one of those things where, like, I don't expect them to really score that many runs in the next two games because baseball just is that one. It's just that way. You don't. That's just not how it goes, Nick.
They broke our score bug. The 20
did.
gets cut off. It wasn't built for 20.
No. Yeah, there's a flaw
Bastards.
in the system.
Nah, it's the Cubs' fault.
Yeah, I mean, listen, there's some interesting things to discuss tonight. I don't know if it'll be as long of a show as normal. However, there's some things that there are some things that I genuinely, you never know. That's true. But I think there's some things that are of relative interest. I really do.
Yeah, I fully expect to still be out here at 12:30 talking about something.
You never know.
Lots of good Reds minor league stuff tonight. Can't wait to get to that. You know it.
Yeah, I mean, I see Who's Your Daddy in the chat saying that you do realize Weaver throws in 2 days. Yeah, damn right I know. And Luke Weaver's like 9-2 in his last 11 starts. So, I fully expect the Reds to win the game. And not only do I expect him to win the game, Luke Weaver, I'll make a fool of myself. You ready for it? I'll make a fool of myself. Luke Weaver is going to throw the ball well. He's going to throw the ball really well here soon. I don't know when it is, but it's coming. It might be next start, for that matter.
Guy Weaver's going up against has a 5.46 ERA that night. So,
yeah.
Guy going tomorrow's got a 4.5 ERA for the Cubs. So,
Reds could win this series, but I think that this somehow just way baseball is. You split and you move on. It's in a weird way, Nick, if you told me right now you could take a split guaranteed, I'd take it. Just keep it moving.
I would have taken it before the series started. You almost take a split. I mean, there's like maybe 2 or 3 teams in baseball that you wouldn't take a split on, like the A's and
on the road.
You know, maybe the Nats. Hey, there you go, Ellie.
I did not see it. You're ahead of me. Ellie finally get a hit.
Didn't he have one earlier? I kind of checked out to be a little honest.
I think he walked.
I walked, yeah. I knew he was on base. That's 2 times on base. There we go.
Okay, fair. Strikeouts need to get cut down a little bit. That's all right. Yeah, Andrew brings up a good point. I feel the same way, guys. I feel the same way about this. Who gives a rat's tail how many you lose by? Really, it actually feels better to lose like this than to lose a 1-run game that you exhaust your bullpen. It's one thing the Reds didn't do tonight. They did not exhaust their bullpen. So, Nick Senzel, man, tell you what, he plays a hell of a left field.
He's an experience.
I don't think it's embarrassing. I mean, I guess Branch, I get the concept, but I just don't find it embarrassing. I really don't. I mean, this stuff happens, man. This stuff happens.
I mean, like, the Reds beat the Phillies 13-0 this year. Like, I wasn't like, Phillies, this is embarrassing. You know, like I was like, oh, it's a great night for the Reds. Like that's how I viewed it.
Yeah.
It's a great night for the Cubs. You know, like Move along.
Neil pulls out the saying that we've used a good amount on this show. We have not used it in a long time though, Nick, because it didn't feel like we've had one of these games in a long time. The whole win 50, lose 50. What do you do with the other 62? This is obviously one of those. We've done that. We've mentioned that on this show quite a few times.
Run it back.
Yeah, I think that's a good tractor rerun. Seems like a good time to bring it back out. Boy, I'll tell you what, this is a tail kicking though.
I would kind of like the Reds to just kind of annoy the Cubs and all the fans standing here for another 5 minutes. Just couple walks.
Does that guy behind home plate have to use the restroom, or is he just usually stand like that? I'm being serious.
Did Tucker Barnhart have one of the worst nights ever in a 20-5 win?
He's not
he had a
good.
rough night.
He's just not good, man. I know people in Cincinnati love Tucker, and Tucker's a good person, but something about Cincinnati and their affinity with catchers when they're not very good.
Nick Senzel just grinding.
Yeah, he's battling. Grinding. You're ahead of me by a pitch or two, too, so that means he obviously fouls us off or takes a pitch.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, look, Nick Senzel's fighting for his baseball life. I mean, all these matter. All these at-bats matter to him.
You think since he's fighting for his baseball life?
With the Reds, I mean, he's going to start costing a little bit in arbitration.
He's not. No matter what he does, he's probably gone.
He's not working for. He'll get a job next year.
That's what I meant.
But if he doesn't get, he will lose money if the Reds don't tender him a contract, because then he'll be a free agent, and he's probably not going to get that same amount of money. So he's fighting to earn that extra $1 million.
I don't see it, but maybe if he gets hot. Is he still at bat, Nick? This is amazing.
He's grinding.
I mean, give him credit, man. Damn. Good job, Nick. Make this kid throw 15 pitches this inning. This game can't still be going on.
It's still going on.
Jeez Louise, dude. What a bat. What a bat.
He walked.
Oh, man. What an incredible at bat. Thanks, Nick. Appreciate your service. Well, look at the integrity of the umpire right there, by the way, man. You want to talk about a guy that wants to go home? He could have just called it.
I'm glad you brought that up, because we've crushed them when they've done wrong, and that was a stand-up job by the home plate umpire.
Yeah.
Respecting the game.
Yeah, could you imagine getting punched out after you battled that hard on a ball like that? I'd get thrown out of the game. I mean, I know the game's over, but I'd get tossed. Why not? Seems like it'd be worth it. Could you imagine starting this absolutely go off on a guy on a 20-5 game?
David Ross is the kind of manager that would get ejected, though.
Oh, man.
And David Bell. They're both kind of that.
I'll tell you what. Oh, you upset. Are you upset at something that happened? It was 2-0. I got a 2-0 free swinging Matt McLean. You saying that's a bad thing?
He didn't swing. It was he finally said, "I've had enough," I think, on this 2-1.
Ah.
Oh, yeah.
Come on, man. Are you telling me McLean hits a home run, Chet?
No.
No, just a base hit. That's a good hit. Matt McLean's the best baseball player we might have on this team.
Cut it to 2 touchdowns.
Oh, yeah. You know what? Just soak it in, John. Use all the semantics you can, brother. Give me all the cliches right now. This team battles. They'll fight you till the end. It doesn't matter the score. These kids are battling. And they are. I get it, but shit. You want them to go up there and you think they're going to go up there and get out on purpose?
They're about to get this K guy DFA'd.
Could you imagine if he gives up a double right here? Or walks a guy. Yeah, that'd even be better. What if walk a few more guys?
You know what's wild is he's their only lefty in their bullpen. He's throwing 21 pitches.
Well, he's unavailable for tomorrow.
So, I mean, I guess, well, unless they ship him down. I mean, at least...
You're ahead of me, and the fact that you're laughing, I love this. This is actually hilarious. I can't believe I'm finding this so funny.
Yeah, I said it. All those Cubs fans, they were standing. They were
this is hilarious.
Celebrate this victory. Reds are saying, hey, you know what? We're going to make
this
bastards wait another 20 minutes.
This is funny, man.
We're going to make you bring in a pitcher, another pitcher.
I tell you what. Listen, this isn't going to happen. But I just want everybody, like, this is when you buy a lottery ticket, you have like that 10 minutes of imagination. I want everybody, the game could be over by now because I'm on Fubo, so that means it can. But could you just close your eyes and imagine for a minute what would happen if the Reds came back and won this game? I mean, I can't Reed Mouse would legitimately, I'm not even kidding, we'd have to go check on him.
He would quit. No way he comes back in.
Oh, man. Kevin Newman, he seems like the only guy that could possibly end this game and it feel justice.
Feels like a pop-up.
This feels like this feels like just a roller me over ground ball to third base.
K hit pitch to him. He knows those splits.
David Ross is just like, dude, what the kid show? Oh man. Oh man, I'm like 2 pitches behind you, and you just laugh. You just laugh. This is hilarious, man. Just watching you watch this game with no intent of winning it at all.
That's the pitching coach. They're giving this guy the Ben Lively treatment.
Can you imagine being up 20-5 and the pitching coach has to come out? Like, what are we doing here?
It's like, dude, just throw it over the middle of the plate. You'll get one. I promise.
Oh my gosh, dude. Full transparency, I thought the show might be over by now, let alone the game. Does this all come with 2 outs?
Yep.
Oh, CES. Just hit one out of here. Don't tell me he gets a hit. Don't tell me he gets a hit. Are you telling me CES gets a hit?
Check the score, bug. Drake's gonna hurt. Hey, that was 104-1 off the bat. CES.
Oh my gosh, dude.
Hey, CES tonight, Sadak said it, 104, 103, 97 off the bat tonight.
Oh, man. Tyler Stevenson. He can't get on. He can't get on base.
Yeah, he can get wide.
Oh, look at him. He's pissed off. He's shaking his head. Is that ball in? No, it's not in. No, Tyler, it's literally over the zone.
Dude, they literally just cost the major league player his job in this inning. Like, this guy's getting shipped down tomorrow. He's got an option.
Oh, man.
They're going to bring up some nasty lefty reliever now. That feels right.
Stevenson striking out to end this thing.
Oh, let's dropped it.
Pop out. Sounds like he almost dropped as a pop out. There it is. Oh, man, he made that look pretty hard. Well, good. Congratulations to the Cubs. I'm glad they could hold on to that one. We do them all, so that means we do them all. And when you do them all, you got to run an intro. Well, if you thought that I was going to start this podcast off and or show off, whatever term you want to use, in a negative light, upset, beaten down, depressed, you'd be wrong. I feel perfectly fine. This is part of baseball. This happens. It just so happened to happen tonight for the Cincinnati Reds. And you know what? I'm not really worried about it. I really do think I have extreme confidence this team's going to bounce back, and they'll at worst split the series. At worst, split the series. They might win the series, but they're definitely going to split the series, and then we come back home to the Nationals, and at that point, back to big-time ball. So maybe I've already forecasted the next two games. I'm not here nor there. We're getting super chats, so all is well in the world. We'll get to you, Mike, in just a second. Nick, and I don't know what you're going to say about this game, but have at it, brother.
Well, not a whole lot. Ben Lively was the first Reds pitcher to allow 13 runs in a game since legend Charles King Lair back in 1915. First time Reds allowed 21 runs in a game since 2009 to the Phillies. Hey, Reds put up 9 themselves, so there's that. Reds lose 20-9. Reds now 59-50 on the season. Brewers won, so the Reds lead in the National League Central down to half game. Cubs still 4 back. This does only count for 1 game.
It does. A good reminder that this only counts for 1 game. I think that sometimes feel like, oh, this is embarrassing. I get it. I do understand that sentiment. But at the same time, it doesn't matter, man. It counts for 1 game. That's why if you look at the run differential, it can be a little misleading. I'm not saying totally misleading, Nick, but it can be a little misleading. I mean, the truth is that the Cubs padded a lot of stats tonight when Maley's pitching from the 6th, 7th, 8th inning or whatever it was. So to sit here and think that you look at the run differential column and that should be a significant thing that you look at, maybe that's just why the Cubs, in a way, they've done this before. This isn't the first time the Cubs have scored 17, 18 runs and then laid an egg the next 2 games. So hopefully they do it again. You have on the rundown poor Ben. I don't know if that's the term that I would use. I mean, he's a Major League Baseball player. He gets paid, I don't know if he gets paid millions of dollars, but he gets paid close to millions of dollars if he's not been paid millions of dollars already. And you know what? This is part of it. Part of it. You feel bad for him?
I feel a little bad for the guy. I mean, he's a guy that's really grinded through his career, went over to Japan, has pitched really, really well for this team. I feel bad that he doesn't deserve to have an ERA of 5.20 on his season. That's on the back of his baseball card. He's got to wear that. I thought, look, he threw 94 pitches. I don't know if what Cowboy said had any validity to it. He said that he thought Lively told Bell, let me go as long as I can. Maybe he did, maybe he didn't. I do feel for the guy in that regard. David Bell had no choice. Like, you've got to get everything you can out of him. I mean, David Bell had to get an inning and a third out of Luke Maley today. But, I mean, I don't know. I feel bad for the guy, but...
That's just because you're a nice guy. Maybe I'm not a nice guy. I don't feel bad for him. I think that he's battling out there. He did his best, but at the end of the day, it's his job to go out there and get outs. He wasn't able to do it. So, do I hope that he bounces back? Yeah, but I'm starting to wonder how many times these guys are going to get a chance to bounce back before the Reds decide to implement some other options. And that obviously is the quiet trade deadline. Let's not jump to that yet, but that's obviously in the rundown as well. Maybe that's something we can get into briefly in regards to the fact that everybody's begging for starting pitching. I thought it was interesting to hear Nick Krall get a chance to talk on the broadcast. Nick, I don't know if you got a chance to hear that, but it was nice to be able to hear his thoughts, although they're going to be very, close to the vest in regards to what he's going to say. He's not really going to ever tell the truth on a national broadcast, or I guess on a RSN broadcast. But one topic I do want to talk about, and I don't want to spend a ton of time on really anything overly. I don't want to overreact on shows like this because I think it's easy to do that, and I like to be somewhat based in most of my my takes, if you want to call them that. I know people think, toxic Trace, and I do go on these rants from time to time. I like to have fun, but most of what I say, I mean. I don't really try to go outside this window and create narratives that I don't think it exists, but they just are so clickbaity or whatever. I do think Kevin Newman sucks, though. Yeah, I do. Yeah, I just think he sucks. It's nothing against him. I don't think that he can be a whole lot better than whatever his body allows him to be. He's just the kid that's gotten passed by. You see it. We've all seen it. It's happened to me. It's happened to everybody that's played baseball. Whether it might be when you're 6 years old. It might be when you're 10 years old. It might be when you're 15. It might be when you're 30. It might be when you're 40. At some point, Father Time either catches up or you suck at baseball. And the time has come for Kevin Newman. He sucks at baseball. I don't know exactly what it is that he's doing out there at second base today. It almost looked like his shoe preference and or his cleat preference or his whatever his shoe deal was sponsored by Quikrete. I don't know how you can be that slow and look that unathletic on a baseball field when you have the sprint speed that he supposedly does. I really don't understand it. But that's here nor there. I'll let you try to defend him. I don't know how you're going to defend and tell me that he should play really defensively at second base ever again.
I mean, I would point out that's his first game in the field since first game that he started in the field since July 6th.
And why was that?
Maybe because he had gastritis.
So what you're
He probably should have gone on a rehab assignment. All right. He probably should have gone on a rehab assignment. He probably should have played a couple games. That maybe is a fair criticism. The guy hasn't played in a while in the field. He had a terrible game today. Let's not forget this guy's absolutely mashed left-handed pitching this year. He has a role.
The ball boy and bat boy have roles too. All right. I mean, we all have roles. My role is to sit my ass on the couch and watch the games, and that's what your role is. His role should have nothing to do with second base ever again. Okay, I'm just gonna leave it at that. If he's at second base, I got a problem with David Bell. I've been a guy that has come around on the bandwagon. You have your cult leadership of David Bell has sucked me in. I think that he does a pretty damn good job. He's prepared. However, this whole concept of playing him at second base is lunatic, especially if Spencer Steer feels comfortable playing second base, because he could play first base. Okay? And maybe he wouldn't suck as bad at first base. He just can't play second base. He has no range. His range is terrible. It's like it's a phone booth.
His defense has been very strange to me this year. He has not been very good defensively. I felt like he was real. Trace, would you agree with this? I felt like he was really, really bad the first, 6 weeks of the season. And then I did feel like he did kind of was okay, at least for a while, before tonight. I don't know. Do you think maybe this is his defense is maybe a guy that hasn't played like this kind of role where he's played sparingly, and that's kind of impacted him defensively?
Listen,
maybe
I know you probably just made a hell of a point, and all I see in the chat is just Fart Newman spam throughout the chat, and I can't focus. I don't know what are you trying to suggest to me, Nick? I don't know what you said for the last 15 seconds, but are you trying to suggest to me that Newman has a spot on this team in the infield at second, short, and or third base? Yes or no? I want to know yes or no.
I think he has a role as a platoon player on this team. I'll say this. I think Kevin Newman is a better defensive player than Spencer Steer right now. I know he hasn't shown it, but Spencer Steer has not been a great defensive player either. Spencer's been a valuable player that's done a lot for this team. Spencer, look at his defensive numbers.
Oh, they're Kirby. Here we go. Old Kirby licks. Where in the world, Kirby, are you telling me that Spencer Steer didn't play good defensively? He's probably playing good defensively, maybe, just because one day he's left. The next day he's at first. The other day he's at DH. Now he's at second. Oh, now you got to go play third. Can you possibly play right field today? Yeah, maybe you can go play right field. Are you trying to convince me that Kevin Newman is a better defender? I want to hear this with my own ears. Kevin Newman is a better defender than Spencer Steer. Say it, Nick.
Yes, I believe.
Oh my God. And you know what? This is the same guy that told me that Spencer Steer was going to have a lower OPS than who was that bum out in right field? What was his name? Will Myers. That's right. Remember that? We need to dig that take up too. Something about you and Spencer Steer. You must not be watching the same guy. Nick, let me be clear. He wears number 7. He plays on our team, all right? He wears number 7. Make sure you're not missing it. He's not wearing number 25. Is that what number? Nope, that's David Bell. 20. He get the between the gastritis stint and the fact he's never played. I can't even remember the clown's number anymore. Anyways, let's see. Here's the thing. I was not going to get excited on this stream. Everything's fine. The Reds are fine. They're going to bounce back tomorrow and win. I just can't believe we're having a rational conversation about Newman even sniffing the infield. Did you see the play he made today? Did you watch the play today? Okay, I'll tell you why his defensive metrics. I need to calm down. I'll tell you why his defensive metrics are fine. Because if the blind asshole that the Chicago Cubs scorekeeper is gonna give a hit on a guy that olays a ball, it looked like he was scared. It looked like my 10-year-old son the first time I ever hit him a hard ground ball. He's like, oh shit, here it comes. Oh, here it comes. Watch out. And the next thing you know, that's a hit? Well, if that's a hit, then yeah, Kevin Newman, sure. I guess he's a great defender if that's a hit. Because in my world, that's an error. If I was Ben Lively, I'd tell him just leave the glove in the dugout, bro. If you're not going to try to get in front of the ball and make a play, don't worry about it. But anyways, that's here nor there. I know you're probably like, oh, Trace is rambling on. I think Kevin Newman sucks at baseball. I'm never going to agree with the fact that he's a better defender than Spencer Steer. Never. Not even one iota.
Only thing I would add here is the defensive metrics have absolutely nothing to do with the official score. It's completely separate, completely different. How it's scored an error or a hit, it's not involved. I don't know. Kevin Newman has a pretty long track record of being at least an average to slightly above average defender. I do think maybe there's something about him because he's been a guy that really throughout his entire career has played almost every day. This is really the first year he's kind of been in a role where he plays very sparingly, and I think it's maybe messed up a little bit.
Perhaps. Or the gastritis got to him.
But Spencer Steer has really, really bad defensive numbers. Can they both be bad defensively? Is that possible?
Well, I mean, you say that, but I think Spencer Steer is not maybe great in left field, but that's no fault of his own.
I mean, he has -4 outs above average at third, -6 at first base. Not really even any data yet on second base. I'm interested to see how he looks at second base. He says he's more comfortable there. But again, like I've said, you don't want to be a prisoner to small samples of these stats.
Can I ask a simple question that you may or may not know the answer to? Because, I mean, I'm sure there's way more people out there that are clueless like me, just absolute idiots when it comes to this analytic stuff. If scoring isn't a metric that's used to help these defensive metrics, what is it exactly? Is it just where they're positioned on the field, the exit velocity of a pitch, and whether they made a play or not? Explain to me where these numbers come from, or do we not know that? And that's okay if you don't.
There's two very different metrics. The first one is the defensive runs saved. Defensive runs saved is pretty much entirely a human eye test, but it's an independent agency called the Fielding Bible that watches every play. They give a scoring number for each play, and they have a calculation, and that's how defensive runs get.
So to be clear,
it's not official score. This is one metric.
No, I'm asking a genuine question. I'm not trying to be funny. I mean, maybe it might come off that way. So what you're telling me is that the metrics that we're using aren't math based. There's a human element involved. There's a human element involved based off the decision making and based off what they think is someone good at defense or not.
Yeah, that's the defensive run save. That's been the longest standing advanced metric. But the new one is StatCast, which is completely computer based, which is completely basing it off their positioning, how big their range is, the throws, all that kind of stuff. It's completely 100% computer based. So what I like to do is I like to look at both because I think both will tell you a picture. And you maybe, because that's especially over short samples, you could really have some poor data, I think. And over the course of Kevin Newman's career, it's funny, the computers actually say he's better than the eye test.
But when you say his career, in my opinion, what does it matter what he did for the Pirates 3 years ago? He's not that guy. I mean, he might not even be close to that guy anymore.
Well, because short samples can really lead to some crappy results, which is why I've said Spencer Steers is not completely fair. I agree. Like the numbers, all I see is the numbers. They look pretty bad. I think if you give him, they say to give it 3 years to have enough data to make any sort of definitive conclusions. That's why you have to kind of go back a little bit further for a player like Kevin Newman to kind of see where he's at. I don't know. I mean, it's just Kevin Newman came up as a shortstop. Like he was traded to the Reds as a shortstop. I have to believe he could be at least decent defensively.
Here's what I don't understand, and this is where I just and this happened when I worked in the scouting and when I did scouting for college and all that. What somebody did 2-3 years ago should not have a bearing over what you see with your eyes now. You can sit, and I'm not saying, let's hear me out for just a second. Guys change. Guys get better or they get worse. No one stays the same hardly ever. And yes, over a certain period of time, you could say, well, he's going to come out to his average because we've seen enough of a sample size. But at some point, that's not true either, because guys get worse and they have to retire because they used to be good and then they suck. So if you can't use your own eyes by figuring out when a guy might start being on the sucky side of his career, a la Kevin Newman, then I can't help you. If you can't watch Kevin Newman tonight and feel like he's absolutely a trash bag on fire in the middle of Brooklyn, I don't know what to tell you. He looks like he's lost out there. He's olaying balls that, quite frankly, were important at the time when the final score is 20-9, Nick. I do sound like an idiot when I say that was an important play of the game. But you know what? That was early in the game, and that would have led to probably an early out, and you never know what can happen. But no, he wants to olay it. I almost thought it was so bad, I thought maybe the umpire got in his way. God's honest truth. I'd ask him after the game. On that ball that was hit to you, the very first ball that was hit to you in the game, did you see it? Did the umpire get in the way of it? Walk me through what happened right there. Because you decided to olay it. I don't know.
I thought he was terrible tonight. I'm not saying he was good. I thought he was terrible.
Yeah.
I'm just saying the guy hadn't started in a month.
We'll see.
And, it's like a 0 for 4.
That's fair. But I would just say this.
That's how I view it.
If Kevin Newman doesn't have the freedom to suck this bad. If you're only going to get to play once every 2 weeks, you can't be this bad. And I know that's not fair, but that's very similar to like a kicker, in my opinion, in football. I mean, yeah, you might only get 1 or 2 kicks this game. In a big game, you might only get 1 kick. You can't mess it up. If you mess it up, there's plenty of other guys in this league that can mess it up just as good, that have other things they bring to the table that I would argue are better from a metric standpoint that we could utilize. All right, that's enough on Kevin Newman. The other final point was Tyler Stevenson. I know I put out a tweet on him. I think that I'm off. I'm off of the luring back in on the Tyler Stevenson thing. I just can't do it anymore. I've tried. I'm just done with it. I'm going to let it ride. I'm not going to be toxic about it. I'm not going to be a hater. I'm not going to be like, oh, Tyler Stevenson every single game. He's horrible. I'm just going to tell you, I'm off the way. I'm off the bandwagon. I don't think that's a guy that you can win a World Series with catching. I don't think that's a guy really that you could rely on in any postseason format catching. There's too many meaningful pitches in postseason play. The margins are so small in postseason play that he'll ultimately end up costing us in ways in which he can't even help or control. I don't think it's his fault. I just don't think that he has the skill set to be able to be a good catcher. He just doesn't have it. I hate that, but that's the facts.
Yeah, I mean, Luke Mailey's looks so good. That also kind of makes it a little bit more challenging of a situation. I'm not ready to give up on Tyler. I don't think he's caught enough games to really to have any sort of definitive opinion on him long term. I think it takes a long time to develop catchers. I thought Clay
Can
Snowden
you give me
brought
one?
Up really.
Yeah, go ahead.
I thought Clay Snowden brought up a really good point when he brought up the numbers like on catching framing with like Tucker Barnhart, where his first like 3 years were atrocious and then they got significantly better. So I think he could still develop. The problem for Tyler Stevenson is he's catching on a contender. And we didn't expect that this year. And now you're kind of in a spot where you're like, he could be costing the team at time, especially there's 2 issues here. The first issue is he's not hitting enough to offset the defensive struggles. Like if he had an 850 OPS right now, I think we're probably like, you know what? Some of these struggles aren't that big of a deal. We can kind of work through it. But when he's not hitting well, and I know he hit a home run tonight, so it's kind of not exactly the most fair night to say this, but he's not pulling enough weight right now on a contending team.
Yeah, I would just, and you don't have to have this answer right now. And I know you are always so, what's the right term? Whether it's nice or forgiving or giving guys the benefit of the doubt, you do that a lot. And that's a good attribute to have. My only question would be, and maybe you'll have this answer tomorrow, Tyler Stephenson's been catching his whole life. Do you, and I'm not, this is more hyperbole. Do you think that he actually can get that much better? Like, what, and if so, can you give me another catcher that's his age and within maybe a 2 or 3 year window, he went from being a significantly below average catcher to being an average defensive catcher or an above average defensive catcher? It's almost like you either got it or you don't. When you get to this level, you either got it or you don't. Can you get a little bit better, Nick? Yes, you can. But again, we're talking about framing statistics in general. There's more to catching than just the framing portion when I'm talking about Tyler Stephenson. I'm talking about lateral quickness, being able to block pitches, being able to call a game, being able to be small enough in a strike zone to let the umpire see most of the pitches. I think a lot of the problem is with Tyler Stephenson some of it's his receiving, his ability to catch the ball in general, but some of it I think is just how big of a frame he has. He blocks the umpire's vision in which the mannerisms he has behind the plate sometimes. And I don't think that he can fix that. I really don't. But again, I'm not suggesting that he can't get better a little bit, but to tell me that he can be significantly better, I don't know. We'll find out. We'll see. I mean, I don't know. The Reds will obviously have to make a tough decision here relatively soon in regards to where they go or what they do. Maybe not, obviously, the deadline's passed, but maybe going into the next offseason or certainly going into the following year after that, they're going to have to make some decisions. So, and I don't want to put words in your mouth. I know you're not like a huge you're not sitting here saying Stevenson's the answer. I think you're just trying to say that he's got room for improvement or he's got an ability to improve. Go ahead.
Yeah, I mean, I think if he could just get anywhere close to average, I think he could be a solid big league catcher, because I think he's going to hit at least average. I think if you have an average defensive catcher, an average hitter, that's actually a pretty solid player. That's a pretty valuable player. So
sure,
I don't know if it's that big of a gap. I don't know. Maybe I'm being a little too nice to Tyler.
Yeah,
I don't know.
I mean, Tyler's not like a huge problem right now. I'm not suggesting that he's like the sole reason this team is going to miss the playoffs or not go to the NLCS or something crazy like that. I just always there's games where you love and you enjoy the excitement that is the youth and the movement that we have and all the young pieces. But then there's also games where you watch the game and you think to yourself, okay, if I close my eyes and I imagine this team in a year or two trying to be like the Braves. The Braves have 2 catchers right now that are better than Tyler Stephenson.
Yeah.
And it's hard for me to sit here and believe, and I know using the Braves as an example is probably not a fair one maybe, but it's just one of those things where I don't know if I see Tyler Stephenson on a team that he's catching every single day. And he's on a team that's going to have a chance to win a World Series. We'll see. Quiet trade deadline. Go ahead. You got any final thoughts on that?
Last point is...
Yeah, go ahead.
Today was his 158th career game starting behind the plate. It's not a lot. He had the 2020 season, got pretty much wiped away, didn't even get to catch in the minor leagues. Then he had that really brutal injury last year. So... I'm willing to be a little more patient and see. I hope he has a big offseason. I hope he finds Ryan Hannigan and goes and works out with him and really, works on his craft. Because I also don't know how much time he was actually able to work this last offseason. Because I don't know the shoulder injury. I don't know how much time he had to take off. So I hope he really works this offseason. And I'd be willing to see what he could do after a full offseason, hopefully staying healthy, be able to work all offseason, come back and see what he could do next year.
Okay. No, that's fair. 2 points that have been made I want to bring up in the chat. One is Branch Brown says ABS stops all this framing stuff. It does, but I mean, if that's what we're waiting on for our catcher, then that's kind of a wild thing. I mean, that's all I would say. I mean, if that's our saving grace for the catcher that we think's our future catcher, well, let's hope. I mean, I do think it's coming, but I mean, that's kind of a wild thing. It'd be like, yeah.
It might not even be here. It might not even be here before Tyler's career is over with the Reds.
Yeah, but it was. And then Molly says quickly. She says, "Well, the Braves are damn good. That's a bad example." Well, that's what I mean. I mean, that's the point that I'm trying to make. Is that eventually that's who we have to be to win a World Series in a way. Like that's who you're trying to accomplish. That's who you're chasing. That's who you want to become. The Bengals fans probably looks at the Chiefs and they think, okay, we need to be just as good as the Chiefs, if not better, to win the Super Bowl. You're not comparing yourself to the Browns. That's what I'm saying. Is like we have to be just as good as the Braves at some point, and I think we can be. But when I look at the Braves, I wonder and ask myself, okay, what do the Braves have that we don't? And they have two catchers, two of them that are just better than our one. But that's here nor there. And again, this game, this has nothing to do with the game tonight. I mean, who gives a rat's tail? We lost 20-9. It's not a big deal. It's just there's something to talk about on August 1st, and we're still in first place. I'm not worried about it, but it's just something to discuss. Quiet trade deadline. I had no problem with it. We had a little bit of a trade talk earlier today. Nick, I don't know if you've had more time to ponder over it, if you have different thoughts, but at the end of the day, I don't have a problem with it.
Yeah, I don't have an issue with it, and I don't feel like it's, after the fact. I think we kind of said going in, we wanted for sure the Reds to get a left-handed reliever. They did get that. We would have loved for the Reds to get a starter, but not to overpay. And based on just about every trade that I saw, it didn't seem like any of them made sense. The one thing I did kind of think about trades after, having a little bit of time to think about it today is I don't remember seeing a single pitcher that got traded that was like a straight salary dump. I don't remember anyone like that's in position players too. I don't really remember almost anyone that was like a salary dump. Like everyone had some sort of prospect. Like even Lance Lynn fetched a decent prospect. And that was what I was banking on a couple of weeks ago when we were talking about this. Right. Is I think the Reds should be looking for that salary dump pitcher. And if someone in the chat can think of someone, please let me know. I was kind of looking through and I was like, everyone costs a prospect. And so that I think maybe changed some of the Reds' thinking, because I know a lot of people went back and said Krall said they were going to spend some of the extra money that they have. Well, I don't think there was a player that became available that was literally just money like you would take on in the past. Like an example of this, back in 2019, Reds took on Kevin Gausman for nothing. Now, that was off the waiver wire, but it still would have been the same concept this year. And obviously, Kevin Gausman ended up turning out. Reds fixed him and turned him into a great pitcher. But that was the kind of move that you could get for nothing. And I don't think there was a move like that available this year.
No, it was not a buyer's market. It just wasn't. And that's what I think this wild card has done to a small extent, Nick. Like, I asked what the Padres were doing earlier today. I was like, what are the Padres doing? Like they're out here trading away prospects for guys that, are they really going to help them that much? And if you're the Pirates, I'd be thrilled to death to get back something that could possibly help you when you have a chance to compete, maybe in a year or two, or maybe 2 or 3 years, whatever they think their window is. But that's what the wild card does, and I think that's actually a good thing, Nick. I think it's a good thing. I like the idea that there's more fan bases that are active. There's more fan bases that think at the trade deadline that their team should be buyers, because that's better for the sport. How nice is it to see a bunch of Reds fans this year arguing, and I say that in a fun, nice way. Some people take arguing as this negative thing. I think arguing healthy can be some of the best. It can be some of the best interactions you have in your life. You can learn a lot of things from arguing with people if you open your mind and you listen. But I like the idea of fans arguing over whether or not you should go get this guy or go get that guy, or whether you should be buyers or sellers, or whether you should hold pat. That's what this game needs. And I think more importantly, when we discuss kind of Major League Baseball as a whole, allowing more teams in the playoffs ultimately does that. And I think the more and more teams or fan bases you can keep engaged and excited is a great thing for the product. Baseball's growing. It needs to grow. They've made the product so much more consumable. I know that many people were worried about the time, the pitch clock, and the maybe the bigger bases, and with the 3-batter rule and all these things where it was taken away from the game and whatever it may be. Listen, this game is very rooted in statistics. It's very rooted in history. People don't really like to change much when it comes to nostalgic things. I'm not naive to that. But this game had to evolve, and it did evolve, and it has evolved, and it's so much better now than it used to be that I like it. I enjoy it. However, every year, you can't assume that your team's going to go out and make this huge splash at the deadline, because the main thing that I always hear, Nick, and I'd love to hear your opinion on this, is like every time you want to bring up something, it's like about some big arm, like, oh, we needed to go get a starting pitcher. And you asked a very pointed, easy question that is, okay, you wanted a starting pitcher. Who do you think they should have gone and got? And then the answers are kind of like, well, yeah, but they could have gotten this guy. They could have gotten that guy. And it's like, okay, well, if they would have gone out and gotten this guy, who are you willing to give up? And just remind yourself that the other team is not going to give up somebody that has team control, and or they're not going to give up somebody that they think has value if they don't think they're getting the better end of the deal too. So just because Nick Krall decided to stand pat, I don't think it says one thing about the competency level of the front office.
Yeah, I mean, one of the biggest criticisms, and I think the most fair criticism of the Reds ownership group over the last however many decades they've had, is that they haven't stuck to a plan. Well, they have stuck to the plan to a T so far. I think that look, I think you can make a case that giving up a top 10 prospect for Michael Lorenzo wouldn't be like completely straying from the plan, and could be okay. Like, I don't think that would have like wrecked the Reds farm system or anything like that. But let's put that aside and think about it. Is that really a wise decision? What are we talking? 12 starts of Michael Lorenzen for a player that could play 6 years in the big leagues? Do you really want to risk that you're giving away the wrong one? Because we have most of the players that you're going to give away, like if it's a Sal Stewart, do you want to risk for 12 starts of Michael Lorenzen that you're giving away the next Matt McLean or the next Spencer Steer or whoever?
Yeah.
That's where you really have to weigh these things. And look, Nick Krall's going to play the long game. So
yeah,
I hate to say it, but this is going to be the Reds going forward unless there's a drastic change of course. I think there'll be times where maybe they make that more aggressive move, but I don't think it's going to be when their playoff odds are below 50%. I think it's going to be when they're like the Rays, and the Rays, their playoff odds are like 95% right now. And they've got some players that they only have a couple years of control left.
Right.
Reds aren't in that spot.
Listen, in 2 or 3 years, you're right. In 2 or 3 years, if Ellie, McLean, Steer, Abbott, all these guys that we obviously are babies now, let's say, for instance, we are like the Braves. Let's say, for instance, we are like a Dodgers or whoever else you want to pick. Maybe it's the Rays. I do think Nick Krall in that ownership group will go out and make a push. Do I think that they'll do what they've done in the past, which is hold on to guys too long anymore? I don't. I think they've learned that. I think they'll know that, hey, if this guy's got 1 or 2 years left in this organization, even though he's extremely valuable, if we can't get something out of him, we have to move on from him. We're not going to hold on to him and get absolutely nothing out of him. So knowing that, I would just remind everybody that the reason that we've gone long times without winning baseball games in this town is largely because of the opposite things that Nick Krall has been doing as of late. So whether or not you want to judge it and say that you're upset and frustrated, I'm not here to tell you how you should feel. I just want to remind you that the reason that we've gone long, extended periods of not having successful baseball in this town is because we've never had prospects come up and be worth a damn, and we've always had to go out and try to find the answers. Wouldn't it be nice, Nick, at some point to just have the answers come right on up? Because you could make the argument right? You could make the argument that if you just continue to develop, I'm not saying you'll never need something at the deadline, but you could make the argument that your answers are going to fall within your organization at the deadline instead of always feeling like you got to go out and buy and buy and buy and buy, because that's eventually not going to be the answer. So hopefully Connor Phillips ends up being a guy. And to your point, the last point I want to make on this is what you said is absolutely 100% correct. We can't be in a position where we're taking chances, where our statistical chances of winning the World Series or winning a playoff series are relatively low, if we're being honest. Can we as fans cloud our vision at times and think that we're better than we are? Maybe. And I'm not suggesting that we can. I'm not dashing our hopes and dreams here. But I just want to remind everybody, we were supposed to win 65 games. That has to play some of the role. If you have the mindset right now that you think, oh, it doesn't matter if you're supposed to win 65 games. That shouldn't matter at all. Well, then you're not seeing the big picture. Because a lot of these young guys are ahead of schedule. Let's use our bandwidth and our power to go after it when those guys are bona fide studs. And you know what the argument back to us, Nick, might be? You know what they're going to say? Well, what happens if they're not? What happens in 2 years if these guys aren't as good as they are this year? Maybe it's just a one-hit wonder. Maybe it's a flash in the pan. Well, if that's the case, we're screwed anyways. Then our plan's not working. I like to bet on the fact that Nick Kral's plan is not luck. It's actually skill-based. That's where I'm at.
Yeah, and I mean, I like that you brought up Connor Phillips. That is the next answer. And the reason the Reds have that answer is because they didn't hold on to Eugenio Suarez and Jesse Winker too long. A trade that was incredibly unpopular, trade that many of the same loud speakers that are very critical of the Reds trade deadline were very much against. That has turned out to be a great trade for the Reds' future, with their best hitter against right-handed pitching and Drake Fraley, Brandon Williamson, who's been a huge piece of this rotation, and Connor Phillips, who I think is going to be the best piece of that entire trade. That's going to be that answer that's going to come up. That's not going to be a 2-month rental. He's going to be a guy you have for 6 years of control that could be a bona fide top of the rotation starter because you stuck to the plan and you didn't screw around.
Yeah, and here's this thing where I think that there's this culture war within Reds fandom, it feels like at times. And people want to pin us up against other podcasts and other people and things like that. And you know what? Most of my takes and even yours, they're not aimed at people. There's different ways of looking at things in life. There's different types of mindsets. And my only thing about that is I would like for our fan base to be a relatively educated fan base. A fan base that actually understands the dynamics that are at play within the whole system. Major League Baseball is not a fair and equitable fight, man. It's not. Shit's rigged, basically, for teams that spend a lot of money. Can you get by if you're smart, Nick? Yes, you can. But some of the stuff that Phil said, you can say whatever you want. I'm not here to defend the man. I'm not here to bootlick the guy. Whatever term you want to use, I'm not here to do that for Phil. Do I think he's an idiot for what he said? Yeah. Do I think he's an arrogant prick that probably is grown up rich, started on third base? Yes. But does that mean he can't make a good point that's actually true? He has made good points that are true. MLB just don't want him to come out and say those things because you probably shouldn't say them if you're the owner of a team, which is this whole thing that is in Major League Baseball is not a fair and equitable fight when it comes to basically even playing field. It's just not. So the Reds have to be smart. They have to be patient. They can't try to play like the big dogs and think they're going to get away with it. They can't be the Dodgers, Nick. They can't. They can't do what the Dodgers did and give away prospects for Lance Lynn and know on the back end that they'll probably be able to just fill that hole with money on one or two position players down the road. That's the truth, like it or not. Doesn't mean the Reds can't compete. Doesn't mean the Reds can't win. But that's part of the truth.
And it's not even the Dodgers. It's just look at the team the Reds played tonight. Doesn't matter how much the Reds spend. And I think we all want the Reds to spend more. I would love for the Reds to spend more. I think the Reds should open their pockets a little bit in free agency this offseason. No question about it. But the Reds' money is always going to run out before the Cubs' money. I don't know how anyone could even think otherwise. Like, it's going to look at their resources. So you have to outsmart them. You have to be more patient than them. You have to not give in to the fan base. And the one thing you got going for you is you don't have as many. You don't have as many people. You don't have 6 sports talk radio shows at your head when you got a chance to win. Right. But I tell you what, though, I think we got to give Reds fans a little bit more credit because Lance McAllister, guy I haven't always got along with, I think he does a good job. Don't get me wrong.
Yeah, you've not always agree with his takes. Yeah,
I not agree with his takes, but he put out a poll today, and I about fell out of my chair when I read it. I was like, "What? What? I can't find the poll." Man, he tweeted a lot tonight, my man Lance. And I think it was 71%. Here, are you cool with what Nick Krall and the Reds did at the trade deadline? 3,295 votes, 71.5% said yes. 28.5 said no. So you know what? I think this is one of those cases, Trace, where I think it's a loud minority that's fair. Is here. And I don't think Lance has like a Chatterbox Reds type support.
Right.
I think he's, is middle of the road. He's on 700 WLW. So I don't know. I saw that. I was like, hey, you know what? Hey, I'm proud of you, Reds fans. I think we kind of get it here.
Yeah. No, I maybe it is the silent minority, or what would it be? The vocal minority would be the term to use there.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. I think we're in a position where at this point it is what it is because Nick Krall did what he did and he doesn't give a damn what the Reds fans think, and that's probably the way it should be. All right. Reds MILB, Nick.
Got some good stuff tonight.
Do we?
All right. We got some good stuff, and start right away with our guy Connor Phillips. Louisville Bats, they won 3-2 over Omaha. The Bats scored 2 runs in the bottom of the 9th to walk off the Omaha Storm Chasers. Bats now 54-47. Connor Phillips, 5 shutout innings, just 3 hits allowed, struck out 4. Connor Phillips now has a 1.95 ERA through 6 starts at AAA. Marte 0 for 2, did walk twice, stole a bag. Jose Barrero did steal a base as well. And then Casey Legumina on his rehab assignment pitched a perfect inning. Tony Santillan also threw a scoreless inning. Chattanooga, they lost 9-2 to Tennessee. Rough night. That's the Cubs affiliate. So rough night overall for the Reds against the Cubs. Lookouts 51-45 on the air. Reese Hines 1 for 4. Blake Dunn 0 for 4. Dayton Dragons, they won 5-4. Dragons, they've now won 9 of 10, now 51-46 on the season. Playing really, really well of late. Edwin Arroyo 1 for 3, double, stole his 23rd base of the year. Matt Nelson hit his 13th home run. So Dayton Dragons playing really good baseball. And our Daytona Tortugas, they finally got a big win. They won 11-2 over St. Lucie. They ended their 6-game losing streak, now 41-53 on the year. And there was some big-time performances from some guys that maybe came up in some trade discussions. And Nick Krall said, I'm not trading any of these guys. Cam Collier, 3 for 5 with a double. Sal Stewart, 3 for 3, double, stole his 10th bag. Hector Rodriguez, 3 for 4 with a double. And Victor Acosta, 2 for 5. So all the big players down at Daytona had a big night. And we don't talk about the Arizona Complex Reds a lot, but Hunter Green threw 2 shutout innings, only allowed 1 hit, no walks, struck out 3 in his return. Vladimir Gutierrez, he also pitched a scoreless inning. It was his 2nd game for the ACL Reds. And then, hopefully I don't butcher our young hero's name, Xing-En Lin made his professional debut. The 17-year-old shortstop was 0 for 2 with 2 strikeouts. Got lifted early. I'm sure that was probably planned just to kind of get his feet wet. But nice to see him making his professional debut. Another talented player in the Cincinnati Reds organization.
I got myself muted because, heaven forbid I type. Listen, this is a dumb show. And you know what? This chat, the fact that there's this many people in here after a 20-9 loss, you deserve this. You deserve this. I just want to let everyone know this is for Kevin Newman. I said some negative things about him. These things are said with love. However, I do want to let everybody know we should not make fun of his IL stint. We should not make fun of his IL stint. You know why? Everybody fire It's true. It's true, Nick. It's true. It's true.
Where do they come from, these smells from behind? From the air we swallow and the food that we eat. When we eat food, it is digested into our intestines. It is broken down to get the nutrients we need for life. When this happens, nitrogen, methane, and carbon dioxide gases are released and sit inside. They have to come out, cause they must be free, oh man. Your mama farts, your daddy farts, your brother farts, your sister farts.
Kevin Newman farts. All right, here's the thing. The one thing they did not mention within that programming is that it does limit your range as well, also known to Olay baseballs.
You know what? Kevin Newman is going to hit one of the biggest home runs in the history of the Cincinnati Reds organization in the playoffs, and I'm going to be here for it, and I'm going to bring back up your farting video, and you're going to apologize live on this airway.
I will.
To Mr. Kevin Newman,
I would be more than happy to.
To his lineage, whole shebang.
I'd be more than happy to. I'd be more than happy to. I have in the preview this video, and let me tell you something. It's tough to focus. I got to get it out of here. All right. Who, what, when, where, and why, Nick? I know everybody might know, but they want to know probably who's on the mound. Let them know about it.
All right, Reds, Cubs. Game 3 of 4 of this 4-game series. Cubs will have Drew Smiley on the mound, 8-7, 4.50 ERA. Last 6 starts, he's got a 6.94 ERA. Fielding independent pitching, that's 6.45 also, so not looking good there. Drew Smiley has struggled at Wrigley Field this year. He's got an ERA of 5.94. And against the Reds this year, in 2 starts, he's got an ERA of 10.6. 16 hits in 9 1/3 innings, so... Reds, another lefty. So guess what? You're probably going to see Newman in there tomorrow, brother. Let's go. I hope he hits a grand slam. Oh, man. All right, and then Brandon Williamson for the Reds, 3-2, 4.48 ERA. Brandon Williamson has not allowed a home run in 5 of his last 6 starts, and after what we witnessed tonight, that stat is very encouraging. He's been outstanding in July. It's August now, but 5 starts in July, he had an ERA of 2.45. So Brennan Williams has been a huge part of this team. He faced the Cubs earlier this year back on May 27th. It's only his 3rd career start, 4 1/3 innings, 4 earned runs allowed. Reds came back and won that game 8-5 at Wrigley.
This is true. The Reds are going to win one of the next 2 games. They might win them both. I'm telling you, I feel confident in that. One way I will feel more confident is if you hit the like button. So thank you again for watching this dumb show. If you just tuned in about 5 minutes ago and you're watching that video, my apologies for your intro to what this is. But maybe no better way to come in to see what we do here than that specific little shtick that we did, because that's part of the dumbness that exists here on a nightly basis. If you're new here, we do this after every game. And if there's ever been a proof of that, tonight's the night. The Reds lose 20-9. Here we are, an hour something into this, talking about Reds baseball. Somehow we come up with topics. I don't know how we do it, but that's here nor there. I know some of you in the chat said let's dunk a basketball. We don't do that on losses. We gotta save those. Those only come on wins. Nicolas Cage only comes on wins. Tomorrow, I don't know who's going to be in studio. Elliott Rearing out. E-Train is what he goes by. Out. Reed Mouse, not in studio. Neither I or Sean will be there. Thom is on his reprieve. I think the only people left for that show at this point is Casey and Paul. So we'll see what they do on tomorrow, off the bench, not with Thom Brennaman. As always, please do me a favor if you've not already. Go download, rate, and review Chatterbox Reds. You know, it's just nice to see everybody support the podcast. It's as simple as that. Even on losses. I tell you what, we've come a long way, chat. We've come a long way. This used to be a very bandwagon-y bunch. You know what I'm saying? You know what I'm saying. We win, you show up, you're loud, Outside of Mouse Cop, Who's Your Daddy, Evan, Steve, there's a lot. I don't want to do this because now I'm going to get myself in trouble. But outside of these, true OGs, if you want to call them that, it was a very fickle bunch. But the fact of the matter is we just got railroaded 20-9. And we had consistently over 200 people in this chat, which means one thing. You guys are elite. This is an elite chat. Elite chat. We're here. Win or loss. Win, loss, or what? What, chat? Win, loss, or what? How smart are you? Win, loss, or what? I want to see in the chat before I end this show. The beat's about to drop. Win, loss, or rain. Go Reds. Much love to all of you.